Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Your Story Hour program.
We're so glad you've joined us because our story today is the last in our series on Abraham Lincoln's life.
We think you'll enjoy it. We want to get started right away. Okay, Aunt Carol?
Yes, Uncle Dan. And since I'll be telling the story, why don't you introduce it for us?
Good idea. We call this story Husband, Father, Politician.
After the wedding of Abraham and Mary Todd Lincoln in 1842, the couple moved into the Globe Tavern, a boarding house near the town square in Springfield, Illinois, where they rented living quarters and ate their meals with the other residents.
Mary, my little woman, I know this room is small. Quite a come-down for you, accustomed as you are to your sister's mansion.
Well, it's true, the room is small. And there seems to be no place to store anything.
And you have no servants here, no one to help you.
But you are here, Mr. Lincoln, and that's all that matters to me.
It may sound strange to our modern ears to hear a wife address her husband as Mr., but in Victorian times it was the custom. On the other hand, Lincoln called Mary by her first name. That is, until Robert Todd, their first son, was born on August 1st, 1843. From then on, he called her Mother. Within a few months, the Lincolns purchased a house on the corner of 8th and Jackson Streets in Springfield for $1,500. The house at that time was rather small, although later it was expanded. There are many reports about the home life of the Lincolns. Mary, it seems, while socially adept and vivacious, also possessed a quick temper. Evidently, she scolded domestic helpers and street vendors alike, and her fine sense of the appropriate was often offended by her husband, whom she tried to accustom to the careful manners of Victorian high society.
I wonder who can be at the door. Guess I'd better get up and go find out. Well, ladies, good afternoon.
Mr. Lincoln, hello.
May I help you?
We were wondering if Mrs. Lincoln...
Certainly. Come right in, ladies, and I'll trot the women folk out. Mary! Mary, you have company. Come in. Come in.
Well, thank you, Mr. Lincoln.
Well, hello. I'm so glad to see... Thank you, Mr. Lincoln. I will escort my friends into the parlor. How could you, Mr. Lincoln, disgrace me in front of my friends in such a manner? It's bad enough you do not wear your coat in the house, but to answer the door in your shirt sleeves? They'll think all of us, all the Lincolns, were all raised in a barn.
In spite of occasional family discord and Mary's spirited outbursts, the Lincolns were bound together by devotion and political aspiration. In 1846, just months after their second child, Edward Baker Lincoln, was born, Lincoln was elected by a large majority as the only Whig congressman from Illinois. After they rented out their Springfield house and visited Mary's parents in Lexington, Kentucky, the family arrived in Washington, D.C. in December of 1847.
Oh, Mr. Lincoln, Washington is such a fine city. It's so big.
The biggest, most cosmopolitan city either of us has ever known, Mother. 40,000 people live here.
Papa, what's that?
Why, Bobby, that's the Capitol building. Not quite finished yet.
See, it has a wooden dome on it now. Later it'll have a better one.
And look there at the other end, the White House.
The finest, most beautiful.
Who lives in the big White House, Papa?
The President of the United States, Bobby. James Knox Polk.
Someday, my child, someday we will live.
Now, Mother.
You have the finest political mind in the country, Mr. Lincoln. Anyway, Bobby, I'm sure your father hopes, as a congressman, to have a little influence over some of President Polk's Democratic policies.
I doubt if I'll have much luck there. But I do hope to strengthen the Whig Party.
Life in Washington was exciting. Lincoln enjoyed being a part of the 30th Congress, but in 1849, he was disappointed over not being named as Commissioner of the General Land Office. And in the same year, he turned down an offer of governorship for Oregon, since Mary was unwilling to move that far west. Once the session of Congress was finished, the family moved back to Springfield, and it was here that disaster struck.
Eddie. Oh, Eddie. No, my baby. Oh,
Mother.
my baby.
After an illness which had lingered 52 days, Edward Baker Lincoln, not quite 4 years of age, passed away. Naturally, Abraham and Mary were devastated. And, perhaps to lessen their grief, they soon had another child, William Wallace, born December 21st, 1850. 3 years later, on April 4th, 1853, a fourth boy was born into the family, Thomas, whom everyone called Tad. From 1850 to 1854, Lincoln devoted most of his time to his law practice, but soon he was once again involved in politics. In 1856, he helped establish the Republican Party, and at their first convention in Philadelphia, Lincoln was even considered for vice president on the party ticket. His reputation as a politician continually increased, along with his reputation as a lawyer of great honesty and skill. One of his most famous cases started with a letter which arrived at the Lincoln and Herndon law firm.
This is interesting.
What is it?
This letter from Mrs. Hannah Armstrong.
Hannah? Jack's widow?
The same. You remember the story I told you about wrestling Jack?
When you first arrived in New Salem.
That's right. Well, it seems that Jack's son, Hannah's son, William, Duff, as they call him, is in serious trouble.
Let me see. It says here that a man named Metzger was brutally murdered, and Duff is one of two men accused of the crime.
Yes, and the other man, Norris, has already been convicted of manslaughter and sentenced.
Well, it doesn't look too good for young Duff. Says here that Mrs. Armstrong wants you to join the legal team to defend him. What do you think?
Well, Billy, I'll do it. Why, when I lived with the Armstrongs for a while, they showed me every kindness, and when the accused was a baby, I rocked him in his cradle. I owe them a very large debt of gratitude.
On the morning of the trial, Lincoln assured Hannah that her son would be cleared before sundown. But the case was difficult. A witness claimed that he saw the two men attack Metzger, watched as Duff delivered the final blow. On the stand, the witness, under Lincoln's close and repeated examination, stuck to his story.
Mr. Allen, you have testified that you saw Mr. Armstrong strike the deceased, correct?
Yes, I saw him just as I told you. I saw him clearly.
Now, Mr. Allen, tell the court again how far away you stood.
About 8 to 10 rod.
About 150 feet, then.
Yes, about.
And again, what time of the night was it?
After 10 o'clock, almost 11.
So tell us once more how it is that you could see anything at that time of night and at that distance.
Well, sir, the moon was about in the same place that the sun would be at 10 o'clock in the morning, and it was nearly full.
I see. High in the sky, and so bright that you could see everything well.
Yet very well.
No mistake.
No mistake.
By the light of a nearly full moon.
Yes, sir, nearly full.
I see. Ladies and gentlemen, I have here an almanac, an 1857 almanac, and it says in this almanac that in August of 1857, on the date in question, here it is, at the hour in question, between 10 and 11 p.m., Mr. Allen, that the moon had already set.
Yes, but I'm sure that
In making the closing remarks at the trial, tears filled Lincoln's eyes as he told of the kindness shown to him by the Armstrongs when he was but a poor and friendless boy. And many who were present felt that the genuine sympathies demonstrated by Lincoln played a major role in Duff Armstrong's acquittal. However, although Lincoln often demonstrated that he was an effective and persuasive lawyer, his real future lay in politics. Just 2 months after the trial, at the Illinois Republican Convention in Springfield,
"It is hereby resolved that Abraham Lincoln is the first and only choice of the Republicans of Illinois for the United States Senate."
Lincoln's acceptance speech to the convention has come down through history as the famous House Divided speech, which forcefully set forth his stand on slavery.
Not cease until a crisis shall have been reached and passed. A house divided against itself cannot stand. I believe this government cannot endure, permanently half slave and half free. I do not expect the Union to be dissolved.
Later in the summer, in August of 1858, Lincoln's powers of persuasion and oratory would again be put to the test, for it marked the beginning of the famous Lincoln-Douglas debates, which contrasted the stand between the two candidates. Stephen Douglas, who was running on the Democratic ticket, claimed that each state should have the right to endorse or reject slavery, and that the Constitution was not written to protect the rights of Negroes.
The authors of the Declaration of Independence never intended to include the Negro. This government was made by our fathers on the white basis, made by white men for the benefit of white men and their posterity forever.
Lincoln, on the other hand, contended that a half-slave, half-free nation would eventually fail. Further, he believed that Negroes had a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, just as white folks did.
That is the issue that will continue in this country when these poor tongues of Judge Douglas and myself shall be silent. It is the eternal struggle between these two principles, right and wrong, throughout the world. They are the two principles that have stood face to face from the beginning of time and will ever continue to struggle.
The first debate took place at Ottawa, Illinois, and 6 more followed, although both candidates made scores of speeches and traveled hundreds of miles during the campaign. The contrasts in the basic beliefs of Lincoln and Douglas were not the only differences, however.
Well, Betsy Ann, that was quite an afternoon. It was worth the trip.
That's a fact, Zachariah. That's a fact.
We'll be back home in an hour. That is, if old Ben here don't give out on us and our buggy don't get stuck in the mud. Giddy up, Ben. That's it, boy.
I don't believe I've seen anything quite like it. 2 such famous men right before our eyes.
Douglas, he's one feisty character. That booming voice.
And looking so fine, new suit, silver buttons. Why, he just looks important.
Except he's so short. Only comes up to Lincoln's shoulder, of course. Old Abe looks so mournful you'd think he just lost his best friend.
When he first started out speaking, I was wondering how he got such a reputation.
Didn't seem too inspired to start with, did he?
No, standing there looking like a scarecrow in that old black coat.
But he did get warmed up by the end of it. Oh, yes.
That he did, Zachariah, that he did. He started out so awkward and ended up so, well, so grandly.
In the end, although the Republicans received more of the popular vote, Douglas won the election because of gerrymandered districts. It was a hard loss for Lincoln, but he at least felt he had struck a blow for truth.
Though I now sink out of view and shall be forgotten, I believe I have made some marks which will tell for the cause of civil liberty long after I am gone. The fight must go on. The cause of civil liberty must not be surrendered at the end of 1 or even 100 defeats.
Although Lincoln lost the race for senator, he was hardly forgotten. He continued to campaign for the Republican Party, making speeches in several states: Ohio, Indiana, Iowa, Wisconsin, and Kansas. He was well received, and his supporters began to think of him as a possible candidate for the presidency. Lincoln laughed off the suggestion.
I must, in candor, say I do not think myself fit for the presidency.
Then, in February of 1860, he received an invitation to lecture at Henry Beecher's Plymouth Church in Brooklyn, New York. He bought a new suit for the occasion, and when he arrived, discovered that the lecture had been moved to Cooper Union in Manhattan, a larger and more prestigious hall. His arrival in New York is recorded by Lincoln's host, Henry C. Bowen.
I faced a very tall man wearing a high hat and carrying an old-fashioned, comical-looking carpet bag. My heart went into my boots as I greeted the tall stranger. His clothes were travel-stained, and he looked tired and woebegone. In this first view of him, there came to me the disheartening and appalling thought of the great throng which I had been so instrumental in inducing to come and hear Lincoln.
On the night of the 27th, Lincoln delivered his speech and ended with noble and challenging words.
Neither let us be slandered from our duty by false accusations against us, nor frightened from it by menaces of destruction to the government, nor of dungeons to ourselves. Let us have faith that right makes might, and in that faith let us to the end dare to do our duty as we understand it.
Noah Brooks, who was present for the speech, recounts the scene at Cooper Union for posterity.
He began in a low tone of voice, as if he was afraid of speaking too loud. He said Mr. Cheerman instead of Mr. Chairman, and employed many other words with an old-fashioned pronunciation. I said to myself, "Old fellow, you won't do. It's all very well for the Wild West, but this will never go down in New York." But pretty soon he began to get into his subject. He straightened up, made regular and graceful gestures. His face lighted up with an inward fire. The whole man was transfigured. I forgot his clothes, his personal appearance, and his individual peculiarities. Presently, forgetting myself, I was on my feet with the rest, yelling like a wild Indian, cheering this wonderful man. In the close part of his argument, you could hear the gentle sizzling of the gas burners. When he reached a climax, the thunders of applause were terrific. It was a great speech. When I came out of the hall, my face glowing with excitement and my frame all a-quiver, a friend with his eyes aglow asked me what I thought of Abe Lincoln, the rail splitter. I said, "He is the greatest man since St. Paul. And I think so yet."
Because of the success of his visit in the East, specifically his speech at Cooper Union, more and more Republicans began to look upon Lincoln as a candidate for the upcoming presidential election.
I don't know what to think, Mother. Judd and Hatch, Jackson, Grimshaw, they're all urging me to run.
And they're right, Mr. Lincoln. You are destined to become president. I just know it.
Well, I'm not entirely sure I could get the nomination, even if I wanted it.
You'll see. It will come.
I guess I'm not in a position where it would hurt much for me not to be nominated. But it would hurt some for me not to get the Illinois delegates. And I guess to be entirely frank, the taste is in my mouth a little to give it a try.
Tradition has it that the office should seek the man, but if you say the word, I know there are those who would work for you.
I suppose that if I have the backing of the Illinois candidates...
And if the Democrats nominate our friend, Stephen Douglas...
Then the Republicans will have to have a candidate well known in the West.
And I just wonder who that might be.
At the Illinois Republican Convention, held in Decatur, Lincoln was unanimously supported as the Illinois nominee for the upcoming campaign. They called him Honest Abe and the Rail Splitter and promoted him as a self-made man. Just a few days later, on May 16, 1860, the National Republican Convention met in Chicago to select the candidate who would become the party's presidential nominee. Lincoln did not attend, but eagerly awaited the results at the telegraph office in Springfield.
We just received a telegraph with the vote of the second ballot.
And what is the result?
Seward, 184.5 votes, and you have 181. The other candidates aren't even close.
Well, then we'll just have to wait and see who gets the 233 votes needed to wrap it all up, won't we?
It's coming in now. It's unanimous! All 466 votes for Abraham Lincoln! Oh, sir, you're now officially the Republican candidate for the office of the presidency! Congratulations, sir! Congratulations!
Soon, Abraham Lincoln was such a celebrity that a constant stream of visitors, well-wishers, and political strategists poured into his home on 8th Street. In response, the governor offered Lincoln an office in the state capitol in which to meet his guests. His popularity was at an all-time high. Rallies and celebrations were held all over Springfield. Finally, on November 6, 1860, Lincoln went to his office in the Capitol building to wait for the election results with fellow Republicans. Would his old rival, Douglas, win? Or would he be victorious? By 2 o'clock on the morning of the 7th, when he learned that he had carried New York State, he knew that the victory was his. He left the Capitol and went home.
Well, Mary Todd Lincoln, you have just been elected as the First Lady of the United States.
Mr. Lincoln, oh, aren't you excited?
I guess for my part, I've never felt before as I feel now the responsibility which is upon me.
The next few months were difficult ones. One by one, the states in the Deep South began pulling out of the Union, and by the time Lincoln was ready to leave for Washington to take over the reins of government, his heart was heavy with foreboding. 1 week prior to his departure, the Confederate States of America had been formed and Jefferson Davis elected president. Abraham Lincoln knew he was looking war in the face.
It is the duty of a president to execute the laws and maintain the existing government. He cannot entertain any proposition for dissolution or dismemberment.
On February 11th, 1861, a dark, rainy day, Lincoln and his family boarded the rear platform of a train at the Great Western Railroad station in Springfield to begin their journey east. Just 4 years later, he would return to this town on a train, in a casket, cut down by an assassin's bullet. But for now, He paused before the crowd who had come to see him off and uttered his farewell to the people whom he loved so dearly.
My friends, no one not in my situation can appreciate my feeling of sadness at this parting. To this place and the kindness of these people I owe everything. Here I have lived a quarter of a century and have passed from a young to an old man. Here my children have been born, and one is buried. I now leave, not knowing when or whether ever I may return, with a task before me greater than that which rested upon Washington. Without the assistance of that divine being who ever attended him, I cannot succeed. With that assistance, I cannot fail. Trusting in him who can go with me and remain with you and be everywhere for good, let us confidently hope that all will yet be well. To his care commending you, as I hope in your prayers you will commend me, I bid you an affectionate farewell.